G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs, episode 33 of the podcast. And thank you to those already who have come along. I know we've got other podcasts on and people like to spread themselves across. So thank you to those that are here already. We are going to get started in a moment. I will wait for some people to jump on. From next week, we'll have a regular panelist. And you will see a couple of people very often with me on the podcast. So moving forward, so I'll introduce you next week. So look forward to that. Very visible supporter at the games, which is fantastic. And and another guy who got a lot of good feedback. Very articulate and passionate Bulldogs fan and rugby league lover as well. So cannot wait to get stuck in. G'day, Mr. It's Me. Welcome. Good to see you. G'day, Nops. And welcome back, Gratitude. And Jimmy, yep. Jimmy, the train driver. You'll be listening to me tomorrow. I know it's the best part of your day, so there you go. G'day, Dave. Welcome. That's it, brother. We're in the finals, and that's what matters. That's all that matters. So, we had, I just uploaded at some time today. I went through, it took a while, the coach's eye for the Sharks game with the rugby league coach, Lee Addison. Some definite areas highlighted that the Bulldogs are struggled in that game. But I will say they're definite expertise in what's being looked at, but you also got to understand that different coaches have their preferences and they also aren't as heavily invested as far as watching all the Bulldogs games because, but it's really good for some of you to get some insights. Probably validates what some of you are seeing as well. But I've definitely got some stuff on today's show to talk about that should give you hope. No precedent sets a precedent for another, and I say that, but we'll look at some historical stuff that's built into the Bulldogs DNA. Belief and hope is, in my opinion, as I say, is much better than doubt and, writing us off. Okay. Not going to go heavily into that though, but tonight's episode, we're going to look at this finals game. We're going to talk about how we can win this game of rugby league. We're going to look at all the possibilities for the teams that could roll out, with Jacob Kiraz, without Jacob Kiraz. Does Jacob play left centre or does he go? I know many people say he's got to be on the wing against Coates, but if that ankle's not 100% right, he hurt it in a leap last week, maybe that could be a bit many would say if he's not 100% right, he shouldn't play, and I get that as well. So there will be some debate on that. But Jacob Kiraz, from the patterns I've seen, is sort of like considered the next best centre in the team. So when we lose one and he's there, he often plays in that role. But whichever role they play, it doesn't matter. If we hold the footy, we play our game, teams struggle to beat us. We held the footy against Melbourne. We crossed the line 6 times. We showed enough in that game that we can beat them. They'll be much harder to beat, don't you worry. And if you look at their last 2 games, like the commentators, they sort of had to after the Broncos loss. They sort of didn't really worry too much about the week before. I would suggest that Craig Bellamy would be absolutely fuming, but I would not at all underestimate the Storm. I think they rested about 8 or 9 players, and they rested players and still lost 2 of their most important spine members. So it doesn't really matter, unless you're going to rest your whole team like the Panthers, you're going to run the risk of losing players to injury or suspension. G'day, Joby. Welcome to you, and welcome to Gasson. So Gasson will be home from overseas on Thursday, and he'll be driving down to watch the Bulldogs and the Storm fight it out. Thank you, David. I love this hat too. It's my head's a bit big, but yeah, it's brilliant, and it matches the 90th anniversary thing. The new one I got though, the 770, it's you can only buy that type of hat from New Era from America. So the dog's actually got it. It's the sweatband actually stretches, which is good when you got a big cranium like I do. So how many we got on? We've got about 11. So obviously, we went on a bit later tonight, so people will join in later on, and we will get started soon. Brian. Here we go, Brian. Look, just let me, Brian, don't bother commenting, okay? You can contribute just by listening. We know what your thoughts are, okay? You don't need to sit there and tell everyone that we can't win, right? Because that just makes you, as I said, someone who isn't strong enough to believe in the club, but also understand that we haven't played that well, but we're in the finals and it's a new competition. So we have to improve, no doubt. Of course we do. No one's that stupid to believe we don't have to improve, and I expect we will. It's got nothing to do with the regime, but that's not to say there isn't issues with the way that we do things. Of course, they'll review it, they'll look at it, they'll learn from it. But I'll tell you now, Toby Sexton, Reed Marnie, all that sort of business, leave it behind, because the people who know why they're not in the team, okay? And there's really good reasons for it. So, it doesn't really matter what we have to say. And look, I'll defend Toby to the hills and Reed in most cases. Lee Addison on my show, on the Coach's Eye last night, said Toby Sexton was a speed hump. I said, well, he was until round 10 last year when he prepared himself to tackle second rowers. Now, Galvin tackles them. He just, he jumps on and clings on. He reads most of them. He gets there. The problem has been his physicality. But if you've been watching closely, he's been smashing blokes the last 2 weeks with his shoulder. So that's a good sign. They've got this kid into a program and he's developing, which is what it's all about. So get behind these boys, mate. Have the courage to back the team rather than to write them off so you don't feel too bad if we lose. That's what it's about. And guess what? And as well as I do, you'll feel just as bad as we do if we lose. We can win this game, and I expect that we will. Now, I don't care. I'm not going to say, well done, Brian, you picked us to lose. I couldn't give a fuck what people think. We're going to go out there and put out a bloody good performance, mate. That's what I know. Team, and I've got some stuff from Blake Austin, which, he and Aiden Caesar. I actually really wanted to get Blake Austin to the Bulldogs. He was one player that I was like, can we just get this guy? Like, he had a bit of the Josh Reynolds about him in the way that he played, but had a couple of, sometimes he'd throw it around a bit and be a bit loose. But I really love the way Blake Austin played, and he played in that Canberra side that went really close to beating the Roosters, let's say that, in controversial circumstances. So they had a really good season that year, and they've sort of been building to get to where they are now. And I actually think they're a stronger team now. But does that mean they're going to make the final and win? Who knows? We will see. It's a really good lineup of teams that are playing this week. I love the matchups, and lots of people have already written the Warriors off, and so they probably should, from the fact that they don't have their main halfback and one of their main enforcers. It makes it harder for them. James Fisher-Harris would do a lot better with a Mitch Barnett there, and so would all the others. The Panthers have been well rested. They know what it's all about. The holes in their defensive line have fixed themselves up. For the second half of the season, they got the best defense in the comp. We've got the best defense in the comp for the season. And if you're going to sit there and write us off based on all these stats and all these other things, well, that's a stat that you have to include too, isn't it? And those stats suggests that we've got some real chance of progressing and at least making a preliminary final, whether it's this week or next week. If the Panthers beat the Warriors, I'm not afraid at all. Now, they might smash us. I don't care. I'll care, obviously, if it happens. But I'm not scared of them at all. I think the Bulldogs will be right there to beat the Panthers. And if we're good enough, we'll win. Just like this Storm game, I think we're right there to beat them. And it doesn't matter what I think or what people think at home. This is a new competition. And I'll give you some statistics to give you some hope. And then I'll talk about what Blake Austin said, which is really important stuff. And I think it's completely relevant and goes along with a lot of the things that I've said and other people have said as well. So it sort of validates me as well. But I love the fact that somebody on a podcast that's an ex-fucking player has actually called out the context of what happens in games and how it changes things, right? Because it's just not done enough. It's fresh, and someone needs to get him on a fucking gig somewhere. Like, he's not a Bulldogs fan by any means, but he's providing context that you're not hearing from the mainstream. And most analysts, ex-players, ex-coaches, whatever they are fucking lazy in their analysis. You know, if you're going to sit there and assess the Bulldogs on, like Andrew Johns, jump on the Galvin train in the last game to highlight his defensive issue when it was clear that it was a tired Josh Curran had moved across. And look, Galvin was passive as well. He didn't do everything right either. Like, none of them did. They were disconnected and disjointed. And that is a concern for us. It has appeared that way in defense and attack, but it will be a lot better come Friday night. And if it doesn't improve, we will get our pants pulled down. And people who suggested that's what was going to happen might start beating their chest and having a big carry on about it. But please don't come here and carry on about it. We don't need it, mate. We know what people think. You've told us what you think, mate, in regards to that. And the good thing for you is you get to be able to say, oh, I was wrong about that if we win, and nothing happens. And we go, yeah, fucking oath, well done. Go the Dogs. I won't be saying I told you so if we win. I hope it's someone like Jammer, James Graham, pumping it out on fucking Triple M, giving it to them all. G'day, Big Roo. Good to see you, my friend. G'day, Tony. Missed your son. I am doing well, Big Roo. I just saw my son graduate in the Navy, so very happy about that. Thought it would never happen, but very proud father of Seaman Jeffrey in HMAS Cerberus. The Brian did podcast. Yeah, sorry, Nops. What percentage do you give Hayes or Carraz playing? I give Hayes a 99% chance of playing, and I give Carraz a 60% chance of playing. How's that sound? G'day, Scotty Warren. Welcome. And is it the return of the main man, Harry Hayes? I think, Scotty, you've been missing as long as Harry's been missing, and maybe your return is a sign for the heart of Harry to come in and absolutely rip and tear for the Bulldogs on Friday night. He needs gotta have faith. We need H back. We do, brother. Brian, look, don't start on the coach. I'll tell you something about this coach. Ivan Cleary, Andrew Webster, Phil Gould, Brian Canavan, okay? Every single fucking player that's played for Penrith Panthers, whether it's still at the Panthers or someone else, have all said the same fucking thing. Cameron Serrato is the shit. Now, you might hear some envy for some other coaches and other ex-coaches and whatever else, or, people who aren't convinced, like yourself, Brian. See, this is the whole fucking thing. You believe in the players, but you didn't believe in these players before they got to the club. You didn't believe in Jake Turpin. You didn't believe in Josh Curran and Kurt Mann. You weren't talking about them. I was on the other podcast, mate, where you went before you come here. It's all hindsight warrior bullshit, and that's fine, mate. Look, I'm not going to dedicate too much more time to it. I've been very giving of my time with you, Brian, and some find it entertaining. Other people find it a real drain and switch off. And some people come for the first time and find me a real drain and switch off without you, Brian. So it's not your fault that they switch off. I'll tell you that now. But I will say this. Cameron Ciraldo's defensive system is the system they've used to win 4 grand finals in a row. And I sat there in 2023 when we, for the first time in years, won 2 back-to-back. We beat the Tigers in Belmore in 40-degree heat. It was 44 degrees in the New South Wales Cup the game before, which the boys won in terrible conditions. And the crowd knows how hot it was that day, trying to lift the Belmore curse after we just beaten Melbourne in Melbourne. And I've always said it, that Storm side they won round 1, were expected to smash us in round 2, and they didn't. We flogged them. We were the better side the whole game. They were a little bit depleted, but we beat them. And then we beat West, and we were way better than West, and they nearly got us. And the coach in the hottest day of the year kept Jade Knockenball on the bench and didn't use him when there was players nearly dying on the field. He basically used a 2-bench rotation, and everyone started going on about his rotations. But we won the game, and you'll find most of the time when he's kept a player fresh, we've won most of those games. So when I sit there and I talk about Cameron Ciraldo, he made a system, and he didn't compromise that system in order to get a cheap win. He was prepared to lose it all. And he sat there. I love that video they just played. It gave me chills that the Bulldogs released. And in the end part, against the Newcastle Knights, when, touchline podcasts are at the Leagues Club interviewing people, trying to get the outrage going after the disgusting 66-0 loss. Khalid Rajab, starting at 6, doesn't get to play another game for the Bulldogs after that in the NRL. Now, and it wasn't his fault. He was just completely exposed to a team that had given up and to a whole bunch of players who knew they weren't going to be there anymore because they couldn't do what was required. And it was set an impossible task. And then we come to last year, and you're telling me, what, because he played Drew Hutchison for 10 rounds? Well, I can tell you now, if he started Toby Sexton, the team would have fallen apart way quicker. And I'll tell you why, because they had no confidence in Toby, and that was the whole message. You only had to listen to Liam Knight when he spoke about trust, when he spoke about accountability, and that's why he was loved at the club. He didn't play a game of NRL in 2024. Our biggest, most experienced forward we could have had in our team, and he didn't play. And whenever you watched him train or warm up, he was leading the pack the way he went about his business. But even he couldn't get a spot in the team. And you want to know why? Because he wasn't trusted by the team or by the coach to be able to put it together for a period of time without knocking the ball on or without getting fatigued to a point where he wouldn't get to where he needs to get in the defensive line. That's why he didn't play. That was the standard that they set and they live by. Now, we need to understand that this Bulldogs team has been preparing for this day for a hell of a long time. A hell of a long time. And we've waited a long time, and they're there. And all I want to do is look forward. All I want to do is look forward, Brian. Stop looking back. We are there. Okay? With the system that Cameron built, off a pathway system, which will constantly be reviewed by Phil, that may be, outdated at any time. They need to be able to sit there and have confidence and trust in each other and what they're doing. So if you're asking why certain players aren't in the team, it's because there's a team at play here who decide who's in the side as well. Coach obviously has final say, but a good coach understands that players, right, have a say in their destiny. And if there's certain players they're not comfortable with or don't trust anymore, that's usually within good reason. Okay? So forget about what you think are the mistakes. Guess what? There has been some mistakes, and some of them you're probably right about. I will not deny that, Brian. I feel them too. But that's all hindsight. And sometimes there's bigger things at play here. Do we have the right cattle? Well, you're saying we do and want to put it on the coach. When in fact, all these players that you're saying have the potential were all developed by this coach pretty much. They all come along in leaps and bounds under this coach. Jamin Salmon, Max King, okay? Jacob Carraz, Bronson Cherry, all ascending, all with their own talent and with their own ability and their own motivation, their own faith, their own drive. Bailey Hayward, Harry Hayes coming through the system, not through a previous system that was there, one that was improving, yes, but one that has evolved quickly. And we should be looking at that system and saying, those kids didn't make excuses when they couldn't make it. We look at Jacob Carraz. He didn't make it through our system initially when we were bad, right? When we were bad, he was overlooked. He went to other places who saw his ability. He did not let it deter him one bit, and he came back to us and put it all on the line, a top 30 for a train and trial, right? So get that into you. Jacob Carraz is a perfect example of a player that's got what it takes, okay, inside. And under Cameron Serrato, you only have to listen to what he talks about with Cameron Serrato. So it's not because they're the teacher's pets or anything like that. It's because they know that this guy's made an absolute difference to their life, not just how they play as footballers. You know, and when you hear stories of the greatest coaches like Bellamy and the great clubs, you know why they're great? Because they're more focused on who the human is than their ability as a player. And I'm not saying that's the same in every case. You'll hear people, you know, talk about a whole bunch of shit when they're putting the club down. But the one common denominator is they go and hire the right people. And those people make your club better. And for us, it's about winning NRL premierships. Yet at the same time, there's 60, 70 kids and parents every year who don't make it. No one cares about them. They just get treated like meat from the fans. You know, to hear people after when Ari Tuala was outpaced by some real speedsters. Oh, he's slow. Well, he didn't appear too slow against bloody Cronulla, did he? Oh, Rennie Karma was great when we won. But as soon as he didn't have the pace in one game, oh, he's slow. We need to be faster. Some players are just faster than others. So we need to move forward. We're in the finals and we can win this. And I'm going to tell you why. You'd like to see Moran come on the bench's impact. He could be a chance. I don't think it'll happen, but he could be a chance. And, you know, I have no sentiment. He's been battling for the club and, you know, he's on his way out. But let's see if he can get a game. He might. Someone might break down in training. Harry Hayes might not be ready. And, you know, Hughes might be injured. And Moran might be the replacement. And I'll be dialed in 100% for Curtis Moran. Don't you worry about that. If Dogs lose, I want them to lose with honour, knowing that they at least tried their best. At least they made it a close and it came and not a blowout. Yeah, well, look, one thing I'll say about that, and you'll watch this with, so the Storm, for instance, lost in big scores in the last 2 weeks, but they didn't stop trying. Do you understand? some teams will mitigate a loss, the size of a loss, by playing in a certain way, in a negative way, to reduce the margin and stuff. I actually saw that a little bit in our Bulldogs under Dean Pay. Well, that was the perception I got. But then, we had a few runs toward the end and had some hope and whatever else. But yeah, look, even against the Dolphins, it's 20-8. We scored. Turpin scores. It's 20-14, and it should have been a try. We're trying to win the fucking match. Always trying to win. So for me, they're never going to give up. They're always going to try to win. If there's a blowout, there's a blowout. This isn't what's taken into account either. You tell me how many sides have had 44 sets of possession and only scored 4 tries and made 3 line breaks. There's not too many teams. I know Penrith had a lot of possession in some games that they lost this year because they really struggled not having that centre, and having probably too many young guys happen to come in fresh with that team of busted players. But that's the only reason that they fell off the perch. They don't focus on their attack. They focus only on their defense, like we did. And you saw games there where Newcastle, it was 2-2 at half time, or 2-0 at half time. I think it was 2-2. We won 30-2. There's been plenty of games where it's been close at half time and the Dogs have gone away with it, but not really through blistering attack, through bringing fatigue into the game and just doing what they got to do, which is how we play. It's how Penrith have always played. It's how the Warriors have played their games this year. So, and finals, that's what it's all about. Ball in play longer, faster tempo. Who's suited to that? Big props or little props? So there you go. Timmy, good evening, Mick, and all our wonderful Bulldogs family. Welcome. Galvin will be twice the size build after a few seasons with weights. 100%, James. From what I've heard, 12 kilos is the target, and I reckon he's already put on a little bit. Now, I'm not putting the West system down, but he spent a year there and couldn't put on any weight. And some people are like that. They just, I look at a juicy steak and I put on weight. Some people, they'll eat 2 big, massive tomahawks and lose weight. They lose weight trying to digest the motherfucker. I'm sorry about that. I lost my control because I really love tomahawk steak, as you might imagine. Going with twice the yeah. So look, I'm starting to see him put that shoulder in a little bit better, and he'll know 100% that. That's what I mean. People analyse the game and think that the coach doesn't know what he's seeing. Just what he says, though, into the media is what he says. He's going to defend his players. He's going to talk about the system, but he'll know what he's unhappy with, and he'll be 100% transparent with it. But taking pressure off your players is what good coaches try to do. Unfortunately, with the Bulldogs, Foxtel and those and everyone, sucking off whatever they put out, getting the sloppy seconds from Foxtel, which is half the podcasters and everyone else, they're just going to take the lazy, easy narrative, right? And if it validates what you're seeing, you're going to do it as well. So, look, I'm not born yesterday. I've said that before. I wasn't happy with lots of our game, but there were parts I was happy with, and I know will click. Go Blue and White Pride forever. Dogs having a party end of the year. That's right. Mick often tells me I should start up a podcast as well. Up the doggies. I think we're a big chance finals are different. They certainly are, Joby. Honestly, Brian, like, sorry, I probably shouldn't be as harsh. Like, obviously, sorry, I don't care. I'll mock you. If you're going to sit there and mock, you know, I know eighth grade was the fucking best 20 years of your life, but seriously, you need to read some other books and learn a bit more. So you talk about the past, and now you're talking about the future before it's even happened. Knocked out straight sets. Well, we finished sixth, and we were beaten by Manly, and we played fucking well. I don't care what anyone says. There was forward passes in that game. Yes. They had players that went on to play for Australia at the end of the year and did really fucking well, as in Tommy Turbo. And they beat us with one sort of play. And who was the protagonist that gave them all the fucking field position and gave them all the ball? Who was it? I defended them last year, and I still basically do. But who was it? And who's leaving the club? So who's an 80-minute player that's not an 80-minute player because they can't control themselves? Put it together. Who do the players trust? Someone else. That's why someone doesn't start. And it wouldn't surprise me if someone else gets a start ahead of that player at number 17. And I probably won't feel as confident if they're not there because I do love this guy. Like, it's really hard to be honest about someone, but you be honest with the people you love, don't you? And I think the Bulldogs have been honest with that player. But he's had an opportunity to, and there's another team that thinks differently, and we might see the best of him somewhere else. And that's just like a junior where the Dogs, don't see the potential that some of the fans see in these kids. And, we had Jake Averillo leave. We're having a lot of great kids that we thought are going to be the next best Bulldogs won't be there. They'll be somewhere else or not playing. That's what I'm going to talk about later with RUOK Day, because it's the end of the season. We've lost a lot of young kids. Hopes and dreams dashed, that all they wanted to do was don that blue and white. And they've seen it go to a player from another team or, a Lockie Galvin. It's hard on them. But that doesn't mean that it's the wrong decision. And it's up to that player then to go and prove to the Bulldogs they were wrong. And recruitment's always going to make mistakes. Always. Always going to make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not playing the game properly. Yet for fans to expect perfection and to sit there and go, oh, Cameron Ciraldo never built himself up, Brian. The media did. The media did, because that's what it's about. Build them up so you can tear them down. Heroes, villains. I've said it on this podcast. The people who come here to listen to this podcast regularly were a mixture of two peoples. They were diehards, and they're people who were like, can you give me a reason not to be so sad and upset this week? Can you give me something? Can you give me another side of the story that I'm not seeing or that I'm not getting told? And that's why I'm here. That's the only reason. Defend the players, defend the club, but to understand that we aren't perfect. We'll never be perfect. They're always trying their best, whether they're the right people or the wrong people. But I'm not the person who's in charge. I can't control who they pick or don't pick. Yeah, I'll try and predict who they're going to pick, and I'll have my thoughts on who they should. But that doesn't mean that I should go out and say that the coach is shit because he doesn't do what I think he should. And anyone who believes that really is wasting their time typing shit on a keyboard here. They should be out there getting their resume ready and go and prove, if they love the club so much, go and sell your ideology to the club and see how much money they've got for you. Seriously. Honestly, that's what I think. You made the top 8 in a week comp. Well, I'll tell you this now, Brian. Cameron Ciraldo, if they want to actually get a Guinness World Book of Records, this would be one. I would suggest that his under-15 side that he coached and had a hand in, pushing their future, right, has played more NRL games than any other teenage team in history. The amount of players that have come out of that team to go on and play over 100 NRL games, to go over and play over 150 NRL games and close to 200 is absolutely unbelievable. But no, he had no say in it. He can't coach. The defensive resolve of the four-time premiers who won a lot of games, tight games in big matches where the opposition, where they only scored 2 tries and they won. You think attack's the most important thing? No, it's defense. I jumped on the live chat for Panthers Awards night and rolled some Panthers fans up. I said they would struggle without Mitch Kenny this week against the Wild. Oh, no, Mitch Kenny. I didn't know that. And they will struggle without Mitch Kenny. For the same reason they want a Mitch Kenny is the same reason our dummy halves don't run the footy. G'day, James. Welcome. Been wondering why Max King seemed so ineffective lately. I bet Buzz Rothfield is his landlord. Moldgate. Well, yeah, look, I've done some recordings of Buzz having a really bad dream about this Friday's game. I might release it tomorrow if I can. It'll just be an audio over Buzz's picture or something. Buzz rigging up break and talking about the nightmare in Amy Park that he's predicting based on his dream. And he's commentating with Jammer. So hopefully it'll come true. But yeah, Buzz, that actually gives me a big idea, James. Moldgate. How good is that? Look, I told everybody this isn't an excuse. The club isn't moving these guys out of their home with their babies because they've been with Max. He has been in absolute diabolicals when it comes to illness, but for weeks now, over like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And he goes out there and he can only do 30 meters, and people act like that was because of the Roosters were just too good and Cameron Serrato and the team is shit. No. And there was a few people affected. There was people getting cortisone injections in their shoulder. There was people with their arms half ripped off, with their ankles barely attached. Yet they're all held to the same standard. If you and the coach said, "No, you had your chance. If you're not right, you're not right." And what I've seen since then is a lot of those individuals have really stepped up their game, not to the level we need, but it's getting there. And I think a lot of them are going to peak this week, and they will be at absolute peak by prelim game. And next week won't be too soon. We lose, we lose. They're going to try. They're going to give us their all. They're going to do their best. Mistakes may be made, but I think what we will see is a team that will thrive under the finals football and will score some points, and people go, where'd this come from? Oh, it just come from belief, energy, being timed to perfection in their ability, in their physicality. And when you do that and you can hold yourself together and connect as a team, opportunities for the opposition will be limited. And I saw elements of our game. We didn't have Burton kicking deep for a lot of that first half. We had Galvin kicking. He did his best. We had them in some good spots. We let them out, right? Their back three got out. That normally doesn't happen. We change that narrative. The game changes narrative, okay? Fixable stuff. We stop giving penalties away. Fixable. Or give away less penalties, okay? Now, it's really hard when you're getting late tackle penalties and late tackle 6-agains versus early ones. So you're getting early ones, the other team's getting late ones. That means they're getting an extra set. You're only getting an extra tackle. It's, you know what I mean? It's different. And it controls the game. And what we had is Blake Austin talk about how in finals footy, the ball's in play. Now, and what he said is the Bulldogs aren't small. They got Kickout and Preston and Burton and these big guys out wide, Stephen Crichton. They got a smaller middle. They've got a shorter middle. They're not as big in the middle. But when the ball's in play, the smaller middle is actually more dominant because it goes longer and you get more energy. And that's what we talk about on All Things Bulldogs is energy and where it's at. Now, if your team you're playing against is getting 44 sets out of 46, your energy is going to be fucking low. It's going to be depleted, right? And that's just the way it is. And to concede 4 tries off that, one off a shitty error. They broke us down on our edges a few times. Left edge twice, right edge once. That's what happens, unfortunately. We lost Cherry after 5 minutes. There's excuses. And they are excuses. They are reasons. And for anyone to expect that it's some systematic problem, I don't care who they are. If they're saying that, that's a lazy take, whether I value them or not as people. Okay? I don't care who they are and what they've done, right? But if you're going to sit there and write off the team, that's fine. That's your choice. But Max King, he'll be back. He will be back, guys. Trust me. He's hungry. He's committed. He created the Panther system and he brought us from the bottom of the table to the top floor. That's right. Very much so. He and the system and everyone at play, all the people that have been hired to do their jobs, and it carries through. Okay? And when there's so many people invested and so many people who hate the Bulldogs as well, and so many fans that have unrealistic expectations of perfection who think they know better, the media is going to continue to act the way it does until we stop treating players and coaches and people like pieces of meat. The media aren't going to change. The clubs themselves aren't going to change the way that they deal with their own players, because sometimes it's so cutthroat that there are genuine bad luck stories in there. But one thing I'll say on Are You OK Day is, and look, Brian, I hope you're okay. Like, I know it's hard when we lose. I fucking know it as much as you do. And that's the thing that some players don't understand too, is that while they're out there and they've got real skin in the game, and we think we do because we pay for the merch and we buy stuff, that doesn't give us skin in the game. But what some of them don't understand, I think most of them have a pretty good idea, is that sometimes we don't even want to function when we lose. And I fucking know it too well. Some people become bad parents and bad children and bad whatevers because they can't handle losing. We're competitive. But one thing I will say is that having hope for me, and this is what I find a lot of the time, if I was probably to do this podcast closer to game day, I know, Brian, I'm pretty sure you'll be a little bit more hopeful. It just so happens we're very depressed. We get a bit more hopeful towards the game, and then they tear us down again. When they, that was our life for how long? From when they had to sell off all our players until last year, basically. Bit of hope at the end of Mick Potter, and a bit of hope with the start with Cameron Serrato, and then a really long tail. They keep talking about the end of last year. We lost the game, but winning and losing in relation to performance You can't just look at the win and the loss column. I know that's what all they care about. And that's great. But when it's about performance, you got to look at how it builds and where it gets to where it gets. And, listening to a Phil Gould talk about that 20 years ago and then talk about that last year and again this year, and when he first come to the Bulldogs, okay, we've got to get some players who can give us some hope for a few games at least, who can score some points. Then when we show that we can score some points and entertain the crowd and make the crowd believe a little bit, then we've got to play a good team and stick with them for a bit. Then they got that scalp against Parramatta that day on the King's birthday or the Queen's birthday at the time, remember? Burton knocking the ball out of Moses' hands when we're already up by heaps. Averillo getting 2 tries, went on a bit of a run. How good was the place? We were rocking. We were thinking we might be able to make the finals even under Mick Potter. We fell away, won the last game, even though we looked like we're going to get flogged by Manly. We beat them. Burton field goal. Come, 2023, good start, bad finish. Come 2024, steady start. In games we had no right to be in, kept turning up in defence. Something changed. 0-2, felt like we were a much better side. Get to it. Get to that final and played our fucking hearts out and lost. Got to play Manly this year, 42-4. The boys prepared for that day, they prepared for that game, and they delivered in the best possible way. So you want to say we front-loaded our season? Maybe. I don't know. Well, that'll be proven at the end, won't it? But if they go out there and they show the energy, they compete hard, I don't care what people say about Melbourne. It'll all be about us. We get to that prelim, fucking fantastic. We lose, okay, we go again next week. And it's the same ideal, and I believe we can do it. Keep that ball in play, make our tackles, keep them pinned, ensure that everyone out there is hitting and sticking. That'll be the aim. That defence, that speed's going to be good, And I think Melbourne will be prepared. They'll be looking at how do they counter-attack that. They know it's coming. They're not stupid. They've been here before. 2014, we lose 5 of the last 6 matches, guys. And what was everyone saying? Sack Des. Go, Tony Williams looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane, blah, 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 blah. Josh Reynolds is shit. He's got no idea. He's hopeless. They're the 4th worst attack in the comp. Sorry if I'm talking like a Bulldogs. My voice changes all the time. 4th worst attack in the comp. We made the grand final, guys. Why? Because we had good defence. We won how many games by 1 point that year in field goals? Now, I know I'm going back, but I'm going back to go forward, right? Why? Because that DNA's there. It wasn't built from Des Hasler. Yeah, sure, he knows how to motivate a rugby league side. Fucking oath he does. Greg Eastwood. I was just watching Bulldogs commentary, and I think it's his mates who were trolling, as according to Brian. Wouldn't know, wouldn't care, really. Snoopy or someone. But at the end of the fucking day, listening to him commentate Greg Eastwood with the intercept, and then getting the ball to Tim Laffey, just gave me chills. That was his first live commentary of a game back then. And, we lost 5 of the last 6. We got beaten by the Titans in the last round. Remember that day? I think Josh Reynolds did something real weird at halftime and ran off with the ball, but then threw it over his head before he got out. It was like play on or something. We beat Souths the week before, who ended up flogging us in the grand final. But at the end of the day, everyone wrote the Dogs off, including half the fan base. We went down to Melbourne, a team with so many good players in it, so many grand final winners, origin winners, players that beat us in 2012, and we annihilated them on their own turf. And they'll never forget it, which is why I know this isn't going to be an easy game, whether we're up for it or not. To me, this could go down as one of the best games of the weekend. And I expect we're going to go there and we're going to win. And I say that because they've been there and they've done it before. They've played this game in their minds. This team has been grouped together from everywhere. Weekly camps they sacrifice for this purpose. Sacrifice time with their loved ones to be together and connect in a way which I've never seen happen so quickly in any other team in my life. Maybe I'm biased, but you just got to look at it. Right? You know, it used to happen back in the day. Manly would go and buy a whole back line or a whole spine or a whole forward pack. And suddenly, you know, their dip would turn into a finals run the next year. That was different. Peter Moore did it with the Bulldogs. Just go out and buy 4 or 5 players that we needed. We did it multiple times through the 90s and 2000s. Get players from England, go and bring players in from here and there. But there was also times where we built through our juniors and got the result at the end and brought all these players together. And when that happens, we win. Okay? 2004 even. The shit that the club had to cop with the scandal. The shit that us fans still cop because of the scandal. It's still there. Especially in Queensland and places like that. So stick by your Bulldogs, mate. Stick by your Bulldogs fans. Stick together. Stop fucking writing us off. Don't call us toxic because we don't want to write the team off. Oh, my God. $19.95. We beat North Sydney. It was the only top 8 team we beat all year. Our 8 losses were against top 8 teams. Yeah, we won, I think, 3 of the last 4, but we lost. We only won like 4 of our last 10. And we were competition favourites that year at the start after we got the minor premiership the year before in a terrible loss to the Raiders. And that 1995 team beat beat the Raiders, the Broncos, the 2 biggest sides of the 90s. They beat a rising St George Dragons side, which had also been one of the teams of the 90s, when you think about it. How many times did they get runner-up in the 90s? I think it was 3 or 4 times. Okay. Then we look to a side that the Raiders, yeah, they lost Ricky Stewart. But the Raiders, the Broncos, the team that the News Corp loved, those two sides, the Super League darlings of the sport. The Dogs made them look second rate. And then the statistical best side of the modern era in Manly Sea Eagles at the time, we absolutely annihilated them. Now, how many years ago was that? That was 30 years ago. And I'm talking about it like it's yesterday. But DNA counts. Aura counts. And it's what, legacies are built from. And there's a whole bunch of people who watched our teams back then who don't see that in our new team. And maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we're not. Okay. That's fair enough to not believe. But I believe. I see a team of hungry players full of heart that play above their weight. And if they get their discipline right and play their game, teams find it very hard to beat us. It's just the way it is. It's been proven. $19.98. finished ninth. No one gave us a chance. I think we won 4. We basically had to win. I think we had 10 wins and a draw out of our last 12 matches, but most of the games were against teams in the bottom. We went past a lot of those sides. They were ahead of us, but they weren't top 8 contenders. Teams like the Magpies and the Steelers and the Tigers and the Reds and these sort of guys. I think the Reds weren't there, actually. I think they were out of the comp. Yeah, I think they dropped out. But the point I'm making is you don't write this Bulldogs team off. You don't write the Bulldogs off. Who does that? Their own fans. Where were you? They said we couldn't win in 1980. They said we had no chance in 79. Yeah, we nearly we were coming home in 79. I'm going back way back. We're also the team that ends dynasties. We ended the dynasty of the Eels. Okay? And we're going to be the team that potentially ends the dynasty of the Panthers. Maybe it's set up for us to play them next week. They've got to go to, and they've got to beat New Zealand first, and many expect it. Does it happen? Who knows? So much energy on the ground. Yeah. I like Hayes. He's a winner and competitor. Would love to have him back for this game. Knock out Harry Grant for hitting him. There we go. That's just not. Yep. If we were out in straight sets this year after being a top 2 side, well, that's just the ladder, Brian. That doesn't indicate, and you've got buys in it as well. So, yeah, I guess we were top 2. I'm not doubting that. It's still an accomplishment. But guess what, Brian? Serrato's probably not going to disagree with you. And that's what he'd be telling the players. You haven't won anything. You've definitely represented the jersey. You've been happy with a lot. You know where your development areas are. You know what we've got to do to fix it. You know what we have to. And it all starts again. It doesn't stop. We go out there. You win the comp. You still got to do it. That's another thing. People think that they're not talking about development with their players after they win. See, that's the fan game. Oh, we won. But we know changes. Well, that sort of goes without saying. But if you're not where you know you're going to be, which is this club knows that they need an 80-minute dynamic lock. They know they need a workhorse that can ball play from the back. And they might just start off as a workhorse, but eventually they can ball play like a Dylan Edwards. They know that they need a hooker who's as tough as any prop in the team. They know that. They know that they need players that can control a game and manage it under any circumstances, front or back foot. And where Burton doesn't get enough credit is that he helps us off the back foot sometimes. A lot. Probably more than any other half in the comp. But still, he gets called a centre. Oh, Latrell can do that. How long does he do it before he breaks down, guys? How many NRL series has he inflicted himself on? Great player. Great guy, in my opinion, too. Don't care what people say about him. I like him. All right. But is he an NRL great? He's an Origin great. For sure. G'day, Ross. Did Brian Dibb go to punch ball boys high? So it's not what we want. Top 4 is a massive accomplishment for a team who was last less than 4 years ago. Well, even in 2023, Gus said we're the worst team in the comp. And Serrato didn't disagree with it. But they knew where they were going and where they are. And we're on the journey. And we shouldn't be dismantling ourselves to prove whether we're good enough. The players will decide that on the weekends. Okay. And hopefully they get a referee that allows the game to have some flow in it. And if they do, the Bulldogs are going to be one of the hardest teams to beat. You know, the ball was in play for 60 minutes against the Sharks, but that's because they completed 44 or 46. Again, that's unheard of. We have to own why that happened, yes. But they give them credit. They held the ball, whether we buckled them enough or not. The Roosters and the Broncos, why have they ascended? Because they're holding the football. Okay? Their attack scoring more points. I don't have Blake Austin's interview, but I'm going to tell you some stuff he said. And I'll quote. He's not too worried about the Bulldogs because they've got the best defence in the comp. That's proven over 27 rounds. They are a side that's big across the park, but small in the middle. They're a side that if the ball is in play and they hold the footy and do what they do, they're very, very difficult to beat. And they have the advantage in games like that, where the ref puts their whistle away, which they tend to do in finals games. So they build fatigue, which is the aim of every team out there, is to build fatigue in the opposition. And going with what Lee said yesterday, sometimes a team will allow an up and in defence, allow their attack to come to them, and allow the up and in defence to work harder by making them run further. So literally sacrifice a couple of tackles in order to exhaust their opposition a bit and then hit them when it counts. All strategy back and forth. I love that shit because I understand it. But it's part of our DNA to be up and in. And there's no excuses for the boys if that happens to them. You know, I've always said with Penrith, they put so much energy into their match that they are a little bit vulnerable late because they, you know, work harder than any other team. They play up and in. And we've become that side. We've got that DNA now where we've got the Bulldogs DNA of the up and in, but we've also got that work ethic just to go as hard as we can and to tempt teams to go with us. And if we get to do that, it happens. But what Blake said, which was so refreshing, was that the ref will decide, though. If the ref decides he wants to blow his whistle on everything and slow it down and have the ball out of play, that brings the bigger teams into it. And whilst we had 60 minutes with the Sharks, we still had 5 tackles each side. The difference was when the tackles were blown, we had 3 6 against to 1 in favor, or 3 or 5 to 1, something like that for the Sharks. So that was always going to cost us. And to only concede 3 tries in that gave me the feeling of a side that can win. Okay. And I had a similar feeling round 1, 2024. Round 2, another similar story. But the difference is this is a final. We're going away. History's on our side to be able to turn it around. They know they've got the belief in each other and what they can do. And they're facing a Storm side that may have a few doubts, even though I think they'll be up for it. Obviously, they'll know what to expect. They'll be wanting to produce for Bellamy. They're not going to want to disappoint him 3 weeks in a row. Like, it's all set up for both teams to be able to win this match. They've got all the advantages. We're missing players we need. But in saying that, so are they. So no excuses for either side. At the end of the day, we're supposed to be there. We are there, and we're going to give this a fucking red hot crack. Yeah, but it doesn't matter what your expectations are, Brian. This is what I keep saying. Your expectation. So what are you going to do, Brian? If you don't settle for that, what are you going to do? Tell everyone that the coach is shit and the club sucked and they failed? What's that going to do for us? Are you going to go and get 100 signatures and throw an emergency general meeting and go get a bunch of other people who want to get their hands involved in the club, get a new board in, start again to stabilise the club? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you just going to go, okay, we didn't win, so fucking what? That sucks. I'll see you next year. What a long wait. Fuck, how long is it till the next year? I'm going to watch Australia versus bloody England. That's what I'm going to do. Going to watch Bathurst after it. Going to watch some cricket. Going to work harder, work longer, do more with the family, whatever. Trying to find where we're up to. Here we go. Settle, Brian. Thank you, James. Knock it on. How do you think Sexton will go in Super League? I think, well, great. Thank you for taking us there, Knocker. It's Are You OK Day. Anyone feeling sorry for Toby Sexton or Reid Marnie or any other player hasn't made it into the team? Curtis Moran. I want you to remember these guys are going to earn $1 million and go to Toby's going to France on $500,000 a season. I'm definitely not feeling sorry for him. I'm going to feel sorry for the kid that's just been told at the end of the season he's no longer wanted, when he was made to believe, when he signed his contract 18 months ago, that he's all that the club wanted. And that's happened about 100 and, 300 times across the NRL. Okay. The parents, the sweat, the tears, the injuries the kids play through as well, because if they have that week off when they're sick or when they're injured, they lose their spot because there's so many others willing to take their place. They play through it. They suffer the stuff. When Gus doesn't come knocking on the door with the contract, when no one's telling them, when they're getting dropped into Ron Massey Cup and no one told them why. They've just been told that's where they're playing this week. It's like, oh, are we managing the kids right here? And then you hear about it happen in another club. And then we see what happens when a kid comes to our club or one of ours goes to another club. They roll out the red carpet. They've done their homework. They know everything about the player that they want to sign because that player suits. They know it's come from a good system. They know that player is going to suit what they need. It's all great. But if you haven't heeded your lessons, if you haven't understood why there was the clubs go about things in the way they do, not saying it's right or wrong, you won't progress. One thing I'll say about Wayne Bennett, and this is at the higher level with the players that he manages, they all know where they stand. And not all coaches may have that same relationship with their coach and with their playing group. So I've been a critic of Wayne Bennett sometimes, but I'll tell you now, I've read his books, and one common denominator from the people he manages is they get told pretty early, that they're just another sheep in the paddock, and he doesn't need them. That's hard to cop, but if he's got a player that's rounding up the sheep, that's if he's got Alan Lang in there, Joby was talking about this today as well, and he used this example. He's going to treat him differently than he's going to treat one of the other sheep, because he's going to make sure he gets these players to where they need to be. And that's a fact as well, and you can't deny that. Doesn't always work out. They like to talk about special treatment at South Sydney. Bullshit. Special treatment everywhere, because you're trying to get the best result for your fans and for your club. That's why. Yeah, but if you're a role player and you're coming through as a centre or as a specialist winger, or you think you're a fullback and they think you're something else, no matter what I think, no matter what your parents think, no matter what anyone else says, no matter what your mates who are playing with you think, oh, he's the gun fucking halfback. He should be halfback. But they're putting him at hooker. Why? Our school team kicks ass with him there, These players are the ones they're suffering, man. It's trauma, it's torture. But the clubs have to do this, or this is the only way the clubs know how, because they, if you can't be resilient enough to force the club to pick you, and understand if they haven't that it's for a business decision, or they've got their sights on something else, rightfully or wrongfully, you got to heed that lesson and go, I need to work harder, even though my family's done everything they can, even though I've fought adversity, whatever it is. I speak to these kids because I know so many of them are so unhappy when they leave. Every year I hear about it, and other people hear about it as well. Dedicated supporters find out, because they go to all the junior games and they talk to the young fellas a lot and they get trust. And the young fellas open up to them a little bit and tell them, a bit sad, I don't think I'll be here next year. A couple of weeks out from the season. What do you mean? Haven't you got a contract? I'm hoping, but my manager hasn't come back yet, All I can say, Gus says it when everyone arrives, you got to have a plan B. You got to be resilient. You got to fight these challenges. And you got to go and prove the club wrong in another place. I look at Joash Papali, right? He's Pele, everybody's dad, Pele. If you haven't watched his when Joash debuted and his speech, go and watch it. Absolute. If you're feeling down and sad, that's going to make you feel happy. Okay. Joash, I saw his progression. I thought he was a one we would keep. We didn't keep him. Now I can question that, but I don't know. But Parramatta, they love him, and he's living his dream, and he hasn't just debuted. He belongs. And we've got people in this supporter group who come to All Things Bulldogs and love Joash Papali, So Jordan Samrani's there. We bought him from the Sharks, but I think he's from our area anyway. So many injuries. Had some issues. But at Parramatta, he belongs. Gideon Katonga come from West Tigers. And it's hard for our small 12 clubs. It's hard for the parents. They're the ones who are living through their sons going through this. And it'll be the daughters as well with NRLW. Don't you worry about that. That's already happening. But I'm not going to attack our club over it. This is the way it is. If there is a problem, though, for mental health, I think the NRL should do something. And maybe work on how communication lines happen and make them sort of law almost, so people can look to their future. This is why they have the trade window in NRL in the June 30 thing, right? And the November thing, because that's come from the Players Association. So families can plan what they're going to do, but no one cares about the kids, do they? You just go wherever. You get told to do whatever, you go do it. You think you're doing everything right. Next minute, you don't have a club, and you're trying to get a gig with Buddy Reevesby, or you're going back to the Regents Park Rhinos, or whatever it is, going back to Chester Hill. You're doing whatever you can to play the game you love. But Gus says it. He doesn't lie about it. It's very succinct. But to me, it makes 100% sense. I get it straight up. This might be the last representative team you ever get to play with. You're already in the top % of athletes in the world to get this far in a premium competition. To not even to get to Harold Natt's level, for example. That those teammates enjoy every moment with those guys, because that might be as good as it gets for you. You've got to have a plan B. Now, for me, a plan B is also having a manager or having parents who understand, might know you a little bit better, and might see that you've got more potential. And you never give up that belief. Take the lessons, ask for the feedback. If it's meant to be, find yourself at another club. And we've seen that time and time again. We've seen it. Who would have thought Ryan Gray would be playing NRL this year? He's playing for South Sydney. He was in our 2018 SG Ball Grand Final side that lost to the Panthers with Matt Burton and Stephen Crichton in it. You know? Anyway, thanks for that, Knocker Norton. But look, are you okay? It's Are You Okay Day on Thursday, but the whole message with it is start the conversations, ask people if they're okay. But don't just do that and walk off when they say, yeah, I'm all right, mate. What's been happening? Tell me about life at the moment. Explain to me what's going on here. Did you watch this? You know, whatever it is, connect with people if you can, in your workplace, in your life, in your friends. And I'm reminding myself of this too, right? Because that's the message. It doesn't stop just because we celebrate the one day to recognize it. It has to happen all the time because too many kids are killing themselves. Sorry to be a downer, but it's just a fact. Every time. Whether they're kids, with young men with the weight of the world on their shoulders, young women, trans people, whoever it is, people not fitting in or not understanding who they are or why they belong or whatever. And we've got kids playing rugby league who have these mental health issues as well, and some of that's contributed by is not made any better by the way that things are communicated or not communicated in most instances. And I think that needs to be reviewed. And I'll be putting that feedback forward to our club, but more importantly to the NRL, because I think it happens everywhere. I've heard instances of it. I know kids who have, like, from my own age group, have gone to clubs and forever been sad because they didn't make it. People have got a slight injury that they couldn't play on. Most of them play through the injuries or they miss out. Brutal, 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 brutal. So we sit down and we feel sorry for Toby Sexton. Why the fuck? He'll play 100 games of great league. He'll be living his dream. No need to feel sorry for him. Feel sorry for the players getting absolutely. No one's asking if Lachlan Galvin's okay or Bailey Hayward. Maybe we should be caring about everyone, not just the pieces of meat that we think are going to make us happy when we win. I think if we behave better as fans and be more respectful of our players and don't treat them like pieces of meat, I do think that can change the way the media does what they do. And I think it can change what clubs do in relation to kids in their systems, which get made a lot of promises. And most of the time, those promises get broken. Or if they're not promises, they're certainly taken that way. And I'm not sitting there, I'm not telling the parents, in their bloody trauma and everything that they're suffering that they're 100% right either. You have to sit there and go, all right, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. What are my lessons? And go ask the people. I'm out the door, yeah. What's my feedback? How can I improve? How can I get back here? And then go look to a player like Jacob Carraz, who wouldn't have got much feedback on his way out the door, who went and tried it at another club. Okay. At another club, the Dragons, then to go to the Cowboys, then back to the Knights to get his opportunity back at the Bulldogs. And he's just signed on an extension to 2028. And he's busting his ass to play for our club on Friday night. I really need guests on here, though, to collate your messages. So I'm not repeating myself over and over. That's something that we're going to do. We're going to have a look at the team lists in a minute and give you the possible lineups. But I thought it was important we talk about mental health. I really do, especially this week. And I'll be delivering a lot of cupcakes for the Cupcake Parlour in Brisbane this week to all the businesses on board. And a big thank you goes out to them. If the Bulldogs can get their defence in order, I think the attack will file from that. Well, it will, Damo. I think it's more a case of our defence is okay. Our defence is good. When our defence fatigues or gets exploited is usually a calamity effect of dropping the ball, giving away penalties, whether it's, from a bias point of view, all our penalties aren't fucking justified. None of them. It's corruption of the highest order. But take that hat off, and what do you see? Our discipline needs to be better, and we can't be. Momentum actually will decide that a lot of the time. So if you're not winning momentum, you're going to get penalised more. So that's another thing. We have to be better. Knowing Max King's suffering, which I said he was, way before that come out. Okay, that's not to say I told you so. That's to say I knew there was issues with him. I told you so. And people want to say, oh, Max King, oh, you're just making excuses. No, I'm telling you that when your number one meter eater and in your prop and your winger make 100 meters between them, there's something fucking wrong. So expect that to be fixed this week. G'day, Omar. G'day, Boots. Up the dogs. He's 6'2", Damo, so he is very tall. He might even grow a bit higher too. He's still young. He could grow. Some kids grow even bigger, We have come a long way. Just for context, Bulldogs immediately outside the Amy Park supporters base way before the Storm did. We're travelling, baby. We'll be a huge blue and white contingent ready to rock the stands. And isn't that the articulation that we want? And Don't Break Defence will be joining the podcast on a regular basis. And Joby doesn't know it yet, but he will be on regularly as well. We'll get the team back together. Brad will make his appearances. Timmy will come on again. And we'll also get old Pete Noonan back in the fray. Hopefully he can. So Nick Meaney's a perfect example. Hopefully he plays like the 2021 Meaney. Michael says, I'll give Hayes my hammy if that's what it takes for him to play. I'd give him mine, but it wouldn't last long, I can tell you that line. Timmy would have loved to have been at Amy Park Friday night, but we were watching on TV in the comfort of my lounge room. I'll watch the NRLW Bulldogs side go around one last time this season. And what a good win by the Lady Dogs. I was going to say the bitches, because they are the bull bitches. And I say that respectfully. Beautiful win against the Sharkies, who were competition favourites to start this year, and a top 4 team. So there you go. Well done to the girls. 3 wins and a draw, and the chance to make it 4 wins and a draw in their first season, which to me is an absolute success. Well done. Nops, Blake Wilson was a surprise pick for me. I haven't been watching New South Wales Cup as he found some form. Look, Blake Wilson has had been a lot of diamonds, a few rocks here, sometimes a lot of rocks, sometimes, but usually always a diamond or two in that grade. As I say about New South Wales Cup, if you've got a whole bunch of guys with you that you haven't been playing with, and that's changing week to week and chopping from week to week, no stability, the wingers are going to be exploited more than anyone. I say that, and it doesn't seem to resonate enough with people, so I'll keep saying it. But he's had some moments he'd want to forget. But I've seen a lot of determination and anger in a bit of Blake Wilson's play, sometimes to the point where he scored tries that he shouldn't have scored because of his absolute grit and determination. And, if Carraz isn't right, he will take his place in the side. I have no doubt about that. The only other way, look, this might be a good segue to bring the sides up, I think. I think it's a good segue. I might not get to everybody's discussions as we get into this now, but let's bring it up. Let's bring the teams up. And I'll make myself smaller, as I like to do. Wouldn't that be good if you could make yourself smaller? All right. Here we go. So we'll go through the Storm side first. Nick Meaney, Will Warbrick, Grant Anderson, Joe Chan. I expect Joe Chan won't start in the centres. I think they will have a change. I think we will again see Cameron Munster go to the fullback position. I think Nick Meaney will go to the centres and Joe Chan will find himself on the bench. I believe, obviously, Coates will play 5. The 5'8", I think, will be Tyrone Wishart, and I believe they will bring in Jonah Pezzett to start at number 7 in this game. I think it'll be Stefano, Harry, Josh King. I think Lasati might find himself on the bench or out. And they might start. Well, I'm not sure about that, actually. I'm not sure about that. I think Joe Chan might actually start on the edge and Lasati will come off the bench. That's what I think will happen. Alisi Katoa, Trent Liero, and on the bench, Bronson Garlic, Tui Kamika, Alec McDonald, and Solavi Falango named. I didn't see this one, and that would change this up completely. If he is right to go, I think they bring the young fella into fullback, which will open the game up for them and will suit them a lot. Nick Meaney moves to centre, Joe Chan to the edge, and they leave the halves the same. So that's potential as well. They also have the option of bringing Howarth in to the centres and dropping, and potentially Joe Chan into the second row, dropping a player such as Atavalu Lasati. Look, I think they'll keep a Bronson Garlic in the side. That's what I think will happen. So there's some of the options I see with the Melbourne Storm team. Moving to the Bulldogs. So we've got Connor Tracy, Jethro Rinikama. He will line up on the left wing, no doubt about that. Connor will start at fullback. Anari Tuala, left centre. Crichton, right centre. Blake Wilson, right wing. Matt Burton, Lachlan Galvin, Maxi King, Bailey Haywood, Sam Hughes, Viliami Kikau, Jacob Preston, and Jamin Salmon. Kurt Mann, Satili Tupanua, Josh Curran, and Reed Marnie, the 17. Potential lineup changes. So, option 1, the option I believe they will run with is the actual. I think there'll be 2 changes. I think that Blake Wilson will drop out for Jacob Carraz, and Sam Hughes will drop out. Sam Hughes or Reed Marnie will drop out for Harry Hayes, in my opinion. The other one is Anari Tuala moves back to the right wing. Matt Burton moves to left centre. Bailey Haywood moves to 5'8". Reed Marnie moves to hooker. And Blake Wilson drops out, and they bring in Jake Turpin to the bench, as well as Sam Hughes out for Harry Hayes. I think Hayes will play. I'm 99% sure he will play, and I'm about 60% sure Carraz will play. Does that mean they both play? Who knows? Could be wrong. But that's what I'm feeling. And I'll see what you guys are feeling in a moment. I don't think they will go with Matt Burton, though, in the centres. I think they will play him at half. I think they will go for a settled lineup. Also, be prepared for this, guys. That Jeffro's left wing, Anari's right wing, and Jacob Kiraz moves into the left centre position, which is defensively is the easier side usually because it has the least going at it. But in the case of Melbourne, they are a right edge dominant team that can smash you with their kicks on the left edge. That's an option. I think they might be a strategic move to bring Kurt Mann to start, just as a surprise element. Although I think it works brilliantly having Kurt Mann and Satili Tupanua come on. Josh Curran, I hope, retains his spot because I think he's earned it the last couple of weeks. His energy and his power and his running has gone to another level. And, we got some feedback from one of the guys that tunes into All Things Bulldogs, good mate of mine who's stuck by this team through thick and thin, and sent me some footage of after the match against the Melbourne Storm. And it had Jamin Salmon, who played, I think, 28 minutes. It had Josh Curran, who played no minutes. He didn't play against the Storm. And it had Reid Marnie, I think, played 13 minutes. Now, they did fitness drills apparently for about half an hour after the game, which is pretty brutal. Obviously, we lost and that sort of stuff. But the following week, Reid plays double that time. Jamin plays, I think, the first 40 against the Panther, and there was a much improved performance. And Josh played 80 minutes and absolutely gave it a really red-hot crack. And, you saw him running onto the ball and setting up that first try off a nice pass from Galvin on that left edge. And then against the Sharks, Josh had to play hard in the middle, and I believe he did. He ran hard, he tackled hard. I think he ended up missing about 8 tackles, but he attempted so many. I don't give a fuck. And against a side that completes 44 sets, and then he had to move to the edge as well. You're going to miss more on the edge than you are in the middle, as a general rule. So, look, I think it's looking good for Josh to be at that peak. I think that Salmon will be very, very important for us in this game. But maybe there's a strategic shift there in Kurt Mann to start and to pull their pants down a little bit. And they've managed Kurt's minutes the last couple of weeks. He's barely played. I think he's played, maybe 45, 50 minutes in the last 2 games combined. So expect he's going to have a much longer say in proceedings. They've given him a little freshen up, maybe worked him hard, freshened him up a bit. And now he goes in at full peak fitness, as good as he can be at this time of year for the game against the Melbourne Storm. That's what I'm expecting. So lots of different options. If Harry and Jacob don't play, maybe there is a chance where Curtis Morin comes into the side and they drop. Look, I can't see them having a one hooker solution because we were here last year and it didn't work. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point there. So we don't have an 80-minute hooker in the eyes of the club, from what I can tell. Otherwise, they wouldn't change it. Okay, and that's just the way it is. Because the little guy who puts his body on the line every week in Reid struggles a little bit after the fatigue, and the fatigue's going to be there. It's going to burn. And he's got every right to struggle. Like, he puts his whole effort into it. It's got nothing to do with attacking him. And if he believes he's 80 minutes, because he still makes his tackles, still the line speed's still there. He keeps going. That's not a problem. It's just the mind goes a bit fucking haywire. And it's cost us. And they don't want to see that anymore. And they're not going to. Okay? So hopefully that gives you some insight as to what may happen. I'm not really concerned what people want to happen, because I don't know what I want to happen myself. And, we've heard people have mentioned, I saw there that, we should put Critter at fullback. Look, I just don't think that's going to serve us well. I think having him involve himself at different points is definitely good. But teams are awake to it. They're watching it. What I want to see this week is Connor Tracy progress physically again to the point where he's less vulnerable to make mistakes. And I really want to see him influence our attack. And Jeff Rowe, he knows how to stick to his edge. He knows how to come in and smash blokes. He can get on the outside of defences and run that sideline pretty much better than anyone in the New South Wales Cup. And congratulations to him, New South Wales Cup Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year, Jethro Ridikama. So there you go. What's your thoughts, people? So here we go again, Brian. I wish. Oh, he doesn't like Blake Wilson. Okay. If you think it's about don't like, you've got your head written wrong. Certain players clash, but I'm telling you now, it's not the winger and the coach. Okay? Might be Crichton's more likely to clash with coach than Wilson. Galvin's more likely to clash with the coach. Burton is. They trust the coach, but they'll be expected to raise things if they think there's an issue or if they think there's something that they don't trust. And I can tell you that's a big part of what happens with the team. So if you want to blame the coach, go for it. But you should also be looking at the team because, you know, they hold the destiny in their hands. And a lot of the time they contribute to the discussions on who plays, especially the leaders. Of course they do. And it's not like people in the organisation don't get asked on who they think should play where and all this sort of stuff. They constantly review and get feedback from people from inside because that's who counts. That's the people they trust. They're the ones who are being paid to give their opinion. To think there that this is just a Serraldo fucking ego trip is an absolute disgraceful way to look at things. And again, it just makes me wonder, where are people fucking, where, like, sorry, but who raised you to think that way? Was it the Daily Telegraph? Was it fucking the Today Show? What was it? Honestly, I'm going to go fucking Nicolas Cage in a minute. Seriously, I'm going to lose it. Who says that shit? Well, actually, the media have been saying that, haven't they? Geraldo must let go of his ego. He must let go of his ego, bro. He must bring in Reed Marnie and Toby Sexton. And maybe he should have replaced Connor Tracy with Matt Burton. I know I didn't like it, Braith, but, you know, maybe that was the missing element, Bray. Anyway. Here we go. A blind positive fan. I'm positive when it's positive, but I'm negative when it's negative. You're going to be delusional. You lose credibility. No, you lose credibility when you don't back your team. When you think you know more, that's when you lose credibility. Don't worry, I've been in chat groups where people have been 10 times worse than Brian. People that I actually liked and talked to and related to on lots of different things. But then when you see the way they are with their team, part of that makes me think, what are they like with their fucking families? It does. If you can be, if you're win and loss, we win this, you know, something good happens in the family, I'm positive. Something negative happens, I'm negative. What are you teaching people, mate? What are you learning from people? Don't worry, Brian. We're all fucking human. I make mistakes every day, and I'm definitely a hypocrite sometimes too. But come on, man. Fuck me. Wake up. You're just sitting here typing. What are you going to type your way until someone agrees with you? Honestly, save yourself. Agree to disagree. And again, I'm a hypocrite because I do it all the time. But that's why I've got my podcast, so I can talk it. You can see when I'm pissed off. You can see when I'm having a bit of fun. Yes, we have done well to get top 4. That's right. And we want to be a premiership winner. And you believe that the team that we've got can win the premiership and it's the coach's fault that we don't. Okay, cool. Bang. And look, there's plenty of people who agree with you. Plenty. Let's get through this. Thank you, everyone, for sticking up. The one person that said the Dogs can't win have also said that they have put money on Melbourne to win. Who's putting money on Melbourne to win, Brian? Send us the ticket. Might help us. In Ciro we trust. It is negative. Sorry. It is being negative. Serrano might have squeezed everything out of him already. He might have, James. He might have. And that's the thing with this system. It will squeeze it out of you. You do have a use by date. As you get older in certain positions, you get replaced. And we're not there yet. Part of me thinks that this 20 2024 Bulldogs team could be a little bit like the 2014 Panthers side that made a prelim and lost to the Bulldogs, right? With Jamie Soward and those players they brought in to that new generation they were building, and it just took them a long time. It's actually, a lot of years where they were like, Panthers are going to be here soon. They'd have some good periods and then fall away, so and had some disappointing years. I remember when the Bulldogs reserve grade side beat their first grade side in a trial, and everyone wrote the Panthers off that season. I remember Kickout was playing for them when that happened, and we had, a whole bunch of young fellas that have been doing all right in cup but weren't playing first grade and absolutely smashed them. I think 40-something to 4 or something like that. But part of me thinks that this journey's got a way to go. But that's not to say they can't win or they can't prove me wrong there. That's me being a realist. I'm not being negative. I'm understanding that until they start saying, okay, Connor Tracy, we're going to pay you $800,000 because we think you're the best fullback and we can't let you go anywhere else. Until that happens, they're not 100% happy, are they? Until you got a spine where you're paying top dollar for it because you're investing in it because it's going to win. Yeah, you can have some handy players that do a role and invest in those players enough to keep them ticking, and you might have be a bit cap heavy in other areas because you've got the right human being in your side. And not to say you can't win, but for the most part, if you're looking at all the premiership winners going all the way back, tell me who their fucking spines were. And tell me the spine of the winning team and the spine of the losing team. And the common denominator, except for maybe 1 or 2 years, Shane Perry's not playing 5'8" for any other team at any other period and winning a grand final. I'd be flat out to say Chad Townsend's winning a grand final with too many other sides. Take Ennis out of that side, take Fafita out of that side, and what have they got? Okay. They had Ben Barber in that side, right? He lost a bit of that weight, that bulk he put on at the Broncos, which slowed him down that little bit. Remember the try from the fucking, from the scrum, shotgun, bang bang. I followed the Sharks that day like they were the Bulldogs. Just so you know. But maybe he has squeezed everything out of this team, James. Gasson, we're in a great position that only very few people like Blake Austin are actually giving us a chance. Everyone else, based on our recent form, has already written us off. And I'm an hour behind the messages. Well done, Michael. Stefano, Blore, Pezze and Grant are huge ins. They sure are. We need to win this weekend just to calm Ryan down. Well, we do. Not so we can say I told you so, just so we can get you on. We want you here, Brian. We want you to get on the bus, Brian. We want you here with us, mate. It will calm you down. I hate him too, mate. Don't you fucking worry about that. Latahi, I am a staunch supporter, brother, and thank you for your support. And up the waz, bro. Up the waz. Everyone that just still remember, we still have the best defense in the game. 100%, my friend. Let's get through these. This guy's a staunch supporter for sure. Thank you, James. Tim Laffey killing it for Shell Harbour Stingrays this year. Well, we go back to Tim Laffey Day, as Dee said. 2014, scene of the crime. I drove around Amy Park on Saturday night. Bit sad after dropping my son off, and hadn't watched the Bulldogs yet. I watched it on delay. First game I watched on delay all year. And it made the night very, very sad. And very, very long. I couldn't sleep. Anyway, that's enough about me. But I drove around Amy Park and I was like, is there a way in? Is there a way in there? Wastes too much time talking to Brian Dibb. Dead set couldn't handle his comments and res nonsense, not worthy. Talk about a non-supporter. Yeah, wear your doggy shirt when we win. Blame game if we lose. Thanks, brother. Sharks had a 4 forward on the bench because Dogs usually work over forward packs by later in the game. Yeah, well, look, I think they were looking to go out there and to dominate. They thought they could. They held the ball. They had a plan to do that. They had a plan that worked, and their 4 forwards. That's what I mean. We saw it with the Dragons. If they can play a high possession game against us, which they did, it was the highest possession game they played all year. They were building to that, and then they sort of fell off a little bit the week later, and they had 2 really strong wins. Fell away once they lost to the Warriors, and their season was officially done, which is what happens. Context, right? Or we can sit there and go, "Hey, you finished 15th, you fuckwit, sucked in," which we'll do that as well anyway. But look, at the end of the day, these if you're carrying 4 forwards, take that into an origin. You hold the ball, you win possession. That's going to work for you. But the law of averages states that it's going to be closer to 50-50. There's going to be more intensity in this semi-final game, right? It's going to be ball playing longer. So if you're carrying that extra forward, you're running a huge risk. You're basically saying, okay, we're going to do everything perfectly because you have to. And some teams can do it, right? On the big stage. They know they've got the other team's measure. They know they're confident they're going to get it done. And they go out and just do that, right? And hopefully that doesn't happen against us. And I don't think it will. I think we will get at least 50-50 possession in a game of, at least 60 minutes of in play, hopefully a bit longer. And with that, we're going to have every chance to win the match. Okay? No doubt about that. We hold the ball. We don't give away penalties. We've got the game plan. It's been proven over and over. And other people talking about our attack as well, and it is predictable at different times. But this is what I didn't say to the rugby league coach last night, and I wish I did, but he did have to go, and I do ramble on. But one thing I wanted to say was about the Canberra game. We sort of touched on it a bit, but, he's talking about the Bulldogs' reliance on their 4th tackle to the right and then go on the left the next way a lot of the time and vice versa. Right. And what I'd like to say is against Canberra, did we do that in that second half? Because I'm pretty sure there was some early plays where the ball just cut out some players and went straight out to Crichton. And they didn't know what hit them. They just did not want to, and the momentum, they could not stop it. So maybe there's variation there for when they truly fucking need it. And sometimes there might be a knowledge within the side that we don't want to play this card right now. Okay? And when you go back to finals, as a general rule, that try that Nathan Cleary scored at the end, he didn't do that move all the time, right? I've seen him do that move numerous times this year to try and win matches. Okay? He's always had that ability to step and to run, no doubt. But last year, 200 metres in the grand final against Melbourne. Melbourne never looked like winning that match. Okay? 2023, Critter, Moses Leota, Nathan Cleary, Liam Martin, I'll say as well. They changed things up. That dominance with the ball where they didn't really throw much at. People were saying, the Penrith attack, not much happening there. But all those sets of defence told in the end with the Broncos. And they started to make mistakes. They started to put balls out in the full. They started to do all this shit. And then the Panthers started to get repeat sets. The Panthers got a runaway try. The Panthers, through different players, did different things. And then when the moment came, Nathan Cleary pulled out a card that they had not seen too many times and made them look, it looked so simple. It's like, you could have done that all season. And he did a few times when it was required. But this year I've seen him do it a lot and not always score from it because teams are a bit more ready for it. He won a game doing it. I think against Brisbane this year, in Brisbane, one of their most important wins, he got one of those tries. So I've seen Matt Burton do that as well. And Bronson Cherry cutting back across, sort of different because we've gone back through the teeth of the middle where he sort of cut through that edge and targeted those little guys that have been worked over in the set who are already tired. But for me, that's a sign that they've played cards because they've been forced to keep themselves in the season. And I don't think there's too many surprises there from the Penrith point of view. I saw some surprises in that Las Vegas game, that little kick. Remember, they won in Vegas. They beat the Sharks. They ticked a box they wanted to tick. And from then on, it was, after 12 rounds, they're last in the comp. Are they vulnerable? Fucking oath they are. No second chances. They're going to New Zealand. They've got no Mitch Kenny, the master of their defensive line, the marshal of their defense. Warriors could be there. And just because if the Warriors beat the Panthers doesn't mean if we lose to Storm, we're going to beat the Warriors. There's something about them as well, which they've got some X factor. Yeah, I know we put shit on certain players of theirs. And James Fisher-Harris is a big deal to that club, believe me. He is an important player, and he's been a big loss to that Panthers side. But either way, I think we've got them covered. Both of those sides covered. I'm confident in that, and I'm confident that we can get to the prelim where we will be most vulnerable. And won't that be interesting? Melbourne have to, if they were to lose to Canterbury this Friday and then have to play the Warriors or Penrith next week at Amy Park again to make a prelim against either the Raiders or the Broncos, which is what it'll be, away from home. That's potentially what happens if they lose. If they win, if Melbourne win, we play the Warriors or the Panthers, and then we have to play a prelim against either the Raiders or the Broncos. Okay? That's what it's going to be for us. If we win, we then await either the Raiders, Broncos, Roosters, or the Sharks, because we won't know until the weekend. So that's how the draw sort of works itself out. But yeah, pretty simple. If we lose, we'll be playing Penrith or Warriors, and then either the winner. If we win that, we're against the winner of Brisbane and Raiders this week, if we get over that hurdle. So there's a chance that if we lose this week, the good thing might be that could be the Bulldogs playing the Broncos in Brisbane in a prelim. Now, wouldn't that be a great place to tear the fucking walls down if we win? Obviously, I'd prefer it to be at a call for the fans and everyone else, but that for me, being up here in Brisbane, that would be, could be one of the best or one of the worst nights of my entire life. But there you go. G'day, Macca. Sorry for my lateness. I'm about 45 minutes behind schedule. Apologies for my lateness. Let's say Harry Hayes plays. Who does the team trust more, Curran to start or Hughes? I think they're going to trust Curran. I think they're going to trust Curran to come back. But that's the question, Macca. Who's the team trust more? Who does the team trust more? So if he gets Serrato, and he's obviously a big part of it, he'll have the call, but who's the team trust more? Is it Sammy Hughes or is it Josh Curran? I think it might be Curran, who's come back and played well. That is what it's all about. Opportunities, get a shot, take it, another door opens. It's an opportunity. The career doesn't last very long. Every game is advertising. That's right. Every game is an audition. Every time they're out there, every cup of coffee they have in public, everything they do is an audition for their future. Have a plan B, a plan C. And many of these kids do, and many of these clubs make sure they do. But there's always more they can do for mental health. Currens looks super impressive, running wider, hitting holes. Mick, thoughts on Lee's comments around player fatigue due to overtraining? Yeah, look, I asked that question, David, and thank you for asking it. I think, look, I don't want to offend Lee in anything I say. You know, we offend each other off screen. Okay, so um, look, I believe there's definitely a lot of honesty, but there's also a lot of predetermination in view. So, as I said, not watching things the same way for every team, not necessarily understanding where a player's at in their career either. You know, you watch Toby Sexton in defence a couple of years ago, he's a speed bump. He's not anymore. Gets some reads wrong. Struggles against some of the bigger players sometimes, but puts people on their ass. Back to your thoughts. Yeah, so what he's talking about is that they can overload them, which can flatten them out for a week in the view to the future that they're going to be peaking for when they need to. But you can also get that wrong. And so I think Lee's looked at things from a real game-wide point of view in the fact that high performance may not be the be-all and end-all that it's made out to be. But I think that also comes from a view of of rugby league that's a lived experience of what works and what doesn't work. Maybe felt that a certain time period it was better than it is now. For instance, we're seeing a lot of injuries, which Lee's been very vocal on as well in across the board. So when you ask a question like that, I looked at Travis Tuma, which I mentioned last night, and think this guy prepared a lot of teams really well. And since he's left those clubs, the injuries have got really bad. Souths, lots of injuries. The Roosters, lots of injuries. Now, you'd think there'd be a legacy there, that they might be doing things that they were doing while Travis was there. He's gone on to get paid some good money to come across to the Dogs and become a full-blown Bulldog. But if you really look at it, whilst we've had some injuries to players and injuries at training and whatever else, and sometimes lightning just striking the same place twice and 3 times and 4 times, you've seen a lot of players that have had some really bad fucking injuries rehabilitate through the Dogs and sort of have kept going, Connor Tracy with his knees, he's had 2 knee reconstructions. Max King's had 2 knee reconstructions. Daniel Saluka Fafita come off massive knee reconstructions. We've just bought Cade Dyke. So obviously there's something in what we do which they know what they're doing. And what I saw from Curran is a player that was really fatiguing out after a period of time, now coming back running hard, right? And then when I hear about what gets sent a video of him having a week off, but then doing a 30-minute training session, he did the warm-up with the guys and everything like that. I'm like, okay. Then he comes out, plays 80 at full throttle and was one of the best in our team. Second half, he had that pass that went out of, and it sort of set us back a bit. And that makes me go, where's the trust? Is the trust there still in Josh? Is Josh under the pressure? Is Josh potentially leaving our club? Okay. And I only say that from the point of view that I can see he's busted his ass for us. I can see that he's had some issues leading up to that. He had the Indigenous game and he gets that try where he just doesn't give up against the Roosters and scores late under the posts to make the score tiny bit more respectable in an absolute flogging. But then we see him have that week off. They do that training thing, and then looks like he's timed and ready to go. Max King's had the mould to deal with. We've got players that are carrying injuries, okay? Every club's carrying injuries, get needled up. They're going through absolute agony out there. They're being held together by screws, by pins, by fucking cotton, whatever it is they can get their hands on to keep them together. With no excuses. And they'd rather play that person till they break themselves because they're still trained and they're still doing everything to the best of their ability and they know the systems, and they're, for the most part, getting their role done pretty well, have them play, you replace them now, they can't come back, is the point. You replace them now, they can't come back. And now you're down to, if one of your new guys gets injured, you got to go to your next lot. And whilst a lot of us would be like, oh, Lipoy's in the team, which I would do, I'd be like, yay, Lipoy's in the team. Jack Todd's in the team. Yay. Trust me. That's a massive fucking experience cut, and that could be a huge risk. Hey. I enjoyed that. Probably a little bit too much. But look, Dave, that's definitely a thing, fatigued you to overtraining. But I think these are narratives, we hear stuff about Brian Smith from the day and Anthony Seabolt, and they're like teachers. They talk too much. They've got too much going on. I don't get that from Serrato. His is all about repetition of the small things, about understanding every part of your movement, every part of where your eyes look, and understanding yourself. This is the stuff I've heard, okay? Understanding where you are and what you're doing and how it all fits in together and how you have to do your role. Because if you don't, it all falls apart. It is that simple. Some would say it's too complicated. Some would say that they need a degree to understand it. They're not right for our system the way it is. They might succeed somewhere else. But yeah, it's definitely a system, from what I've told, of accountability, understanding everything that you're putting in, what you're putting out, being on this journey of, where you should be getting to as far as the meters you're running through games and all this sort of stuff. And that's the stuff where they're rating them, right? So not the meters they make with the ball, but the combined meters. How far did you run and where did you run? And, so we might see a game where, and this would be the truth, right? There'd be a game where Harry Hayes might have only made, 90 meters or something. We didn't have much possession. He's made 89 meters. He's taken 13 hit-ups. He's made 44 tackles and missed 3, right? But they'll actually track how many meters he ran to save tries, how many meters he ran to do the defense that he was doing, where he's made a try-saving tackle there, and next minute he's been over the other side of the field. Same with the Josh Curran, same with everyone. So we might sit there and go, well, statistically, he's not even worth talking about statistically. But the coach is sitting there saying, he's our player of the match, this guy. Why? Well, the stats might have said he made 80 meters and had one error and whatever else, but he's been out there and he saved 3 tackles. He was there in the vicinity when we needed him, and he sat there and he's run fucking 9 kilometers today. But no, it's not accounted for on any, Supercoach stat sheet. It might go on the VB hard earned index, but I don't think that does either. I think they just calculate the amount of tackles they make per minute that they're out there, the amount of runs they have and meters they make per minute that they're out there, and per hit up. It's all that sort of stuff. And I think that's a good thing to look at as well. What a player contributes for the minutes that they've got the ball, as opposed to what they're contributing when they don't have the ball. And if you break things down like that, you then get to see. But as Gus said, I'll rather a player who makes 25 tackles and attempts 35 tackles than someone who makes 50 tackles as the third man in or the second man in, or who's just the flopper. I don't need the flopper. I need the person who's going to attempt 35 tackles and put his body on the line and show me that he's prepared to die for his fucking team. And if he's missed 10 tackles, well, it's up to the blokes around him to make sure that they're beating him to the punch. You know what I mean? Lots of shit to look at. Carraz and Harry, 100% in. There you go, Macca. Listen to the Macca. He's rarely wrong. I believe Carraz will play left centre or right wing. And there'll be a lot of you that say he has to play right wing. He has to be able to jump up against Coates. We can't leave an Ari Tuala there. You know, I know if that happens and Carraz is left wing and Tuala's on the right edge, there'll be about, I don't know, 150,000 supporters. It'll be on chat sites, typing on their phone to their friends or other Bulldogs groups. Going, what the fuck is Carraz at left centre? Serrao doesn't know what he's doing. Next minute, Carraz is going fucking through. He's just offloaded in a line onto Jeff Rennie-Karma. And we're in. He's just made a fucking try saver on their right edge fucking attack. Right? Maybe later. You know, Tuala concedes a try against Coates. No. And Ari's fucking up for it. They can't even get their kicks right because they've been that rattled. They're tired. They're deflated because the Bulldogs have just starved them of possession. They haven't had the opportunity to put Coates one-on-one. Our discipline drops. What happens then? Harry Gant's running from dummy half. We're on the back foot. They get it out to Peze. They get it out to Wishart, whoever's got the ball. Munster, ball on a string. Coates up in the air. And Ari's done all he can. Look fucking hopeless doing it. And they score. Everyone carries on. It's about how the pieces come together. You're always going to have weaknesses. And if the coach sits there and says, this is the for this semi-final, this is the best position for this player to be in, I'm going to back that 100%. There's no time to question it. This is the fucking team, and let's get behind them. And if they go out there and do what the coach has asked them to do, and they lose, what else can they do? They go out there and do what the coach does, and they execute it. I can guarantee you they're going to win it 9 times out of 10 in any language. Hold the ball. Back your fucking system. Hold your fucking nerve. Trust in your teammates. Oh, we'll get the fucking trust in yourselves, trust in your teammates. We'll get the Phil Gould speech going, shall we? Pray that we win this week so the Dogs wouldn't have to play on my birthday, the 20th, in which I have to cancel 3 different things. Hold on. Go the Dogs. Come on, the Dogs. Mike, you need to go to Melbourne, mate, and watch them. Thank you, Brother Nops. Much appreciated. You know. I need to get Jamie Teasdale on here. He used to come on here. He goes onto the Kennel podcast and pays them money every week just to make a comment. I don't fucking get that. Honestly. Oh, thank you, Brian. I love you too, my friend. Talakai, however, could cover in centre too for the Sharks if needed. Fuck. Didn't you ask that about the other night, Timmy? What do you think about the sentence handed down Aaron Patterson? Life sentences? I've got no control over it, brother. I really don't know. I feel more confident with Mick laying out the facts that we are a tough and gritty team that will fight for the full 80 minutes. That's right, Tim. And thank you for joining the podcast and being a member. And everyone who contributes and helps pay my fees to present this. I really help that. I really appreciate it. Brian, I agree. And Timmy Gray, that's why I like to air my dirty laundry on here, because Mick can critically pick it apart and tell me otherwise. It's instilled hope. Well, Brian, I know you'll be fucking angry at me. If we lose. That's all good. We talk about who does the club trust more. I'll leave you with this. The boys trust and love Toby Sexton. Coach does too. If the coach is going to run out the most trusted 17, then let's see. Thank you, Macca. I know they love and trust Toby Sexton. They do. But I will also say that they may trust someone more. And the reason I say that is I know they trust Galvin because the mindset changed. After we beat that Parramatta side, and I've said this, they come out against Souths and blew them off the Toby and Galvin, blew them off the park early. Then we had the scenario around, how do I say it? We play Penrith. He puts on he takes Marnie off after 54 minutes, or even earlier, mate. I think it was the 50th minute mark. Toby goes to hooker, and Galvin comes on. We lead 6-0. And I think in that moment, it was a rush thing. And I think the mindset changed. And we started to make mistakes. We started to do some things where the boys thought it was going to happen. They were that confident it's going to happen. And I think they understand that. And I've seen slow improvements in that, in the fact that they've tried to go the grind even when games have been hopeless. Against Manly, we saw that grind, right? Bit hard to do in the wet. We saw that patience come back against the Warriors. Two sides that struggling. I get it, but they showed it. It's like we can't just expect it's going to happen with Lockie. We have to earn every bit of it, and he has to earn it as well. Because they thought the game was just going to open up against Penrith when they installed him in there. I'm sure of it. And it took them until the last 8 or 9 minutes to get in a position again where they could, they lost 20 minutes to the match because they thought that they had something done when it wasn't done. And that's what I'm talking about. That's where I saw a mindset change from the rest of the season, because although there were games we had to win over again, where the team scored a few tries, even if they couldn't score, there was these periods where, not much happened. And I think the club was really looking for someone to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And when they saw that in that Parramatta game and then saw what happened at the start of the South game, they're like, this is all going to happen. And I think even the coach might have got ahead of himself a little bit. But that's just my perception. I fucked if I know that, but that's what I think. So when we see that, and I see how that's evolved, I think they've got that in them to understand that we're going to fucking play for 80 minutes. We're going to keep grinding. The fatigue's going to come in. The job will be easy. But we'll know that if we have to play the football and we have to throw that pass, we're going to fucking throw it, and we're going to go for it. We're going to put it on the line. But we're not just going to do it because we expect it's going to happen because that time in the game suddenly clicked over, and we expect that because we've had the possession, we've had the run of the play, we've done what we've wanted to do with our defense, we've kept them pinned for so long that it's just going to happen and we can just start throwing balls willy-nilly. No, we can't fucking do that. And even with the Bailey Hayward change, I'm sort of seeing the fact that he's left Bailey on there because he's had the ability to. You got to understand that. He's had the ability to teach these kids these lessons. It fucking hurts for us when we lose. But do they trust Bailey? They trust, there's some great relationships. You just got to see how connected they are. Even the players who appear on the outer. There's still a lot of love and trust in that regard. But if the team has doubts about a player, that's going to be raised. Always. And I think the guys see what players can do at training too. Right? You know what I mean? They can see how things open up. And if you're watching Galvin, you're seeing a kid who effortlessly floats from one side of the field. And for the most part is making his tackles and improving in that area and doing things. Yes, there's times he's cramped. There's times where he's like, I'm going to run here or he's done the wrong option. Fucking oath there is. But he is asking questions and he is saying, give me the fucking ball. He hasn't shirked from it one iota. Whereas in tough times, unfortunately, I've seen young Toby, and so has his teammates, whether it's by design he doesn't get the ball. I can't 100% hand on heart say, you know, that it's by design that they don't pass him the ball. But I think he sort of allows the Burtons and the Crichtons to say, here, it's mine. Let's do this. Jump on my back. Whereas they want Toby to fucking do that. Whereas I've seen it with Lachlan when we've had the run of possession. He's been there, give me the ball. He's been involved in all parts of it. And whether he throws the last assist or not, it doesn't fucking matter. I never look at that. So that's something to really look at, guys. This kid's taking it on. Now, whether he's successful at getting it done. Joshy Reynolds created some beautiful moments for us, but there was so many more moments where it didn't happen. But he fucking went after it. And give this kid some credit for doing that. He is going after it. And he is going to make some mistakes. And people will say, oh, there's too much pressure on him. Look, I worry about his mental health, no doubt. But he doesn't give me any signs on that field other than if things aren't going right, he looks concerned because, of course, he fucking does. He wants to win. And they're not winning. And he's running out of fucking time to get the win, of course. They also trust Lockie 100%. They love and trust Lockie too. Maybe I don't mean the 7. There you go, Macca. Ciro isn't afraid of big calls. I find this addition to extended interesting. We will see. He's keeping all his options and yeah, look, Toby could come in as the 17 and replace Reed. Potentially. You know, so the whole thing is if Ciro was to bring Toby and Reed into the frame, just say he benches Bailey and drops Lockie out of the side altogether. People would say he succumbed to the pressure. He fucked their season. It's too late now, and win or lose, it won't matter. Or if we win, it'll be because he listened to everyone. They're going to own the fucking narrative no matter what it is. And so will the fans. Serrato does not give a fuck what we think at the end of the day. He doesn't care what the media says. You know, he'll have coffee with Buzz and fucking smile at him, probably buy it for him. He won't buy it for him. Buzz will have to shout, from what I've heard. I think Serrato's made, the players have made that well known. But what I'm saying is he just doesn't give a fuck. He knows what he's doing. He's lived it. He loves it. He lives for this moment. He's exactly where he wants to be. And he's got this team who are going to go out there and fucking represent us. Once again, I refer to Moneyball. It's a process. It's a process. Everything Ciro is doing has an end game. And that's 100% true. And if you ask Gus that, he'll tell you exactly the same. Everything he does is to the minute. He knows what the hell he's doing Friday now already, though. We'll know already. Joe, we need Adam G to let game flow. Not many stoppages. If we can come over the top, I've noticed Storm tries to win the game in the first half. So if we can start well and stick it to them, we can definitely win. Very, very good observation, Joe. Adam G, unfortunately, since not being appreciated for the way he let one of the best grand finals go, has blown the pee out of the whistle a lot since. And that sucks because it's like he's been forced to. Just my perception. But definitely on the Storm, they're a team that gets the yips if they're not blowing teams away. And you know, they've had to win a couple of games twice like us. Very inconsistent side, but still good enough to beat everyone they needed to beat for the most part, including the Panthers twice. Aaron Carrez don't pull up well in the next few sessions. He will make some amendments to his overall team. I would suggest that as well, buddy. Agreed, Joe. Adam G is the ref. He's the best referee in the game by a long margin. He is the best for the dog style. I hope so. Yep, he did referee the best grand final, and I actually find he's become a lot more trigger happy because of he's been forced to, unfortunately. Someone needs to buy me a flight and a ticket to the game so we can win Melbourne. Come over to my mum's place, watch the NRL Bulldogs match and the final on the Channel 9. That's it. Get together, boys, and send us some photos. I'm driving from Sydney shortly after a 23-hour flight transit. Hope there's no jet lag. You might not know where you are. You might end up in Brisbane there, Gasson. Heading for Melbourne and end up in Brisbane. Fuck, 42 degrees in Qatar. Fuck. Oh, here he is, Jamie Teasdale. Give me some money, Jamie. Fucking. Why are you paying bloody Elmo and Dibbo? I go on there, I watch them every fucking week. And here is you just paying your hard earned to these guys. God, look, you can come onto the show if you're going to pay me. I'll tell you that much. Good on you, mate. Thank you for supporting Elmo and that. When are they getting there? But I haven't heard. I haven't watched all their shows the last probably 10 weeks. Where the fuck is this studio that was getting built? I want the studio back. Serrato doesn't give a fuck what we think, he says. That's right. Elmo and Dibbo love Jamie. Well, I'd love him. I love him too. Come on. Show me $2. Come on, give me the $2. Timmy already pays me enough. Welcome, Jamie. Jamie's come. Brian must have called Jamie out, did ya? Old kennel podcasters from way back. But guys, look, I've pretty much let's look at some stats, shall we? Let's look at some stats. Played 47, the Storm 25, Dogs 22. Dogs have got us in close matches. Both times it's been 3 tries apiece, funnily enough. And goal kicking has been our issue. 2 out of the last 5 for the Dogs. 3 out of the last 5 for the Storm. And we've conceded a, 28, 48, 80, 94. And what have they conceded? 20, 34, 74, 104. So there you go. But our attack, we haven't scored enough points. Wins this season, 17 for the Storm, 16 for the Dogs. Dogs' best defence in the comp, second place, the Storm. They've scored a lot more points, but, you know, if it was all about attack, as a good point made by Blake Austin today, the Dolphins would be winning the comp, wouldn't they? Tackle efficiency a bit better for the Storm, which you'd expect. 27 scored, 19 against. Dogs 22 and 17. 3.58 to 3.5, negligible. At the venue, Dogs 4 from 12. Storm 137 from 180. Statistically very hard to beat at Amy Park. But the Bulldogs, one of the best records. You know, we've got a 33% record there. I think the Raiders are the only side with a better record at Amy Park in a team that wins 76% of the time, which lines up for us. We are fucking due. Overall, we're getting closer to getting back on parity, and the Storm, one of the best records of any team in the comp. The best, I would suggest, at 65%. So there you bloody go. Bulldogs. Yeah, he's been told to get his KPIs up. He doesn't want to ref like that, but they are forcing his hand. I do believe that, Brian. Unless Elaine not coming on as much, I believe she's been really busy work. She has, yeah, really flat out. Great person and great mother. I actually have this podcast on in the background a lot. Oh, come on, Jamie. That's not fair. You pay for one mob and don't pay me. You should come on. I guess I tell you a lot of stuff you don't want to hear, but Jamie, because I know you get pretty fired up. I see a lot of your comments on things. You get pretty pissed off with the best of them. You and Brian could have a pissed off party. But look, I'm here to give you a few different levels. I'm not about the outrage. The outrage is for people playing the algorithm and they know it. But that's all right. I know one thing, we all fucking love the Bulldogs. Finals, let's hope all history is out the door. I believe the hunger the boys will be huge. The voiceover that's credited for that video you would have all seen was inspiring. Yeah, I had to post it. It was fucking fantastic. So get in there, look at everything, guys. I'm heading off now. Just hanging out for Jamie to show me the money. Show me the money, Jamie. Come on. You're the big money boy. That's all right. I'll have to earn it. I'll have to earn it somehow. Don't know how, but I will. I'll have you throwing cash my way somehow one day from the background. Just because I need it. All right, guys. Sorry, just chatting to a couple of mates. Couldn't make it. Great to have everyone on. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you all, and much love and respect to everyone. Keep up the faith. Guys, go and make comments. Go like it. We get plenty of views. I know we do. Oh, David Swarks. Good to see you, mate, and good to see you again, Abraham. Hi, Mick. We can lift and win this, but Burton must never play centre. Our best half would deflate when he has moved there. Yeah, I do a bit too, just for the whole centre versus 5'8" thing. But if that's what they think, TTP, trust the process. Process. Money ball. But Dave, I get it, bro. I do get it, mate. I want him there kicking the fucking lever off the football, putting it where it's got to go, and our boys getting down there and absolutely smashing those motherfuckers, taking the energy out of the legs of their wingers and making it really tough. You're welcome. Go, Michael. 24-12 to the Dogs. That'll do me. That'll be a tough, hard-fought win, in my opinion. But we need to go to Melbourne and score more than 3 tries, and kick some goals. Oh, here you go. Fuck yeah. Made my day. Thank you, Jemmy. You can tell the fellas at the kennel that I begged for it and you accommodate. Come on, show me the money, everyone. I'll tell you what, I'll start setting a target for super chats. I can do that, they say. I can set myself a target and let yous go, you know. Don't worry about your kids, they'll be fine. Make them dinner, pay me. No, I really appreciate that, Jamie. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I feel a little bit silly now, but the kennel will take over Amy Park, and if Gasson showed us that we were outselling Melbourne fans big time, so that's going to be awesome. Agree, man, been cottonwooled all season in terms of minutes. He's a big factor, and Sarah remembers how much we missed him in the last game last year. 100%. We need Kurt Mann to win a comp, to win a semi. Didn't want to fucking risk him when he didn't have to. Jamin Salmon's half broken as it is, you know, leave him out there, and he's been building his minutes. He's been ripped at training, apparently. You know, some people saw some stuff and heard some stuff from outside the club. You know, There's when Ciro has a fucking chat to people, they generally respond, and I've seen it. So players which have been off the mark and come good, just understand they've probably had a fucking individual one-on-one serving and been asked to hold themselves to account, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Even to the point where they could try too hard and maybe make a mistake or something. But I don't think this coach ever has an issue with people making mistakes, trying things or trying to win. It's more a case of are they selfish choices, or are they choices made in the right spirit of the team and where the team needs to go and where the team's going? And if there's concerns on that, or questions on that, and it happens over and over again, that's when those players leave our club, or those players don't get seen in the same way that they may see themselves. And sometimes that means they will leave our club, or they won't be offered the same sort of deal. And talking around the edges on this, there's players leaving our club that are loved, that are respected, that are welcomed on this journey, but have not proven to the coach and the staff or the group that every decision they make is in the best interest of the club, the team, and usually is in their own interest. So, not saying they're bad people, fuck no, but that's what it's coming down to. For us to ascend, they want to have a team of the best people that they can get the best out of. Take from the Craig Bellamy book, where they sit there and get references from people about the person. They couldn't give a fuck about their playing ability. They already know that. It's about, if we get the right person in our system, we can get them playing to the best that they can play. They're going to help our other players play to the best of their ability. They're going to connect easier because they're good people. And if it turns out they're not, they get exposed, they get fucked off. Quick spark. They're not smart enough to understand the system, or not built that way, they fall out of the system. So there's a lot that goes on to get the right balance, and they're still trying to get it. I've always said we're not the finished product, but believing these guys are going to go out there and fucking represent us well, and all they want to do is win a comp. That's all they want. They want it more than we fucking do. I can tell you that now. You know why I know that? Because they go out there every fucking day. When it's quiet, when it's silent, when nobody's fucking around, they're doing shit that other people aren't doing to try and get ahead and win. And they should be respected for that. The silent times, they call it. And I can't fucking wait to see the result of that this week. I'm not thinking we're going to lose. I'm thinking we're going to win. I'll be fucking spitting chips if we lose. I'll be angry as anyone else if we lose. But I'll hold it together because, the sun will come up and we'll have another shot. But I think that next shot's going to come in a prelim against either the Raiders or the Broncos. Sort of hoping it's the Raiders, just quietly. Timmy, 24-16. If anyone sees me down at Amy Park, I'll look like my profile picture and I'll be in the middle of the field. It's Matty Burton, everyone. Just letting you know. And he is a 5'8". He's not a centre. We need Moan to play more than 10 minutes. He will play more than 10 minutes unless he's injured, Brian. Trust me. Hey, score a try. Everyone loves you, Macca. That's it. You're not coming home unless it's with a home preliminary. Unless you're trying to come to Brisbane and you want them to lose, so you want Brisbane to win the prelim, to beat the Raiders, so that we have to go to Brisbane and I get to go to the game. That'll be fucking fantastic. But that's me not putting the club first, so I won't last long in the Bulldogs because I've put myself first. Mick, can you go live after the game even if we lose? I might do that, buddy, because I'll be pretty pissed off. But, yeah, It's RUOK Day week. I'm doing a shitload of deliveries, and I've got to go and do a heap of work now, actually. So I'm going to say goodbye. I'll go live no matter what. How's that sound? Love yous all, and thanks again, Jamie. Fucking hell, mate. I'll pay that forward, don't you worry. And we'll be doing something around the rugby. We'll have some rugby league coach books. I'll send some out to people. Maybe we'll do a quiz or something in a couple of weeks, just to see what we can do and put a little rugby league coach book up, which a great read, guys, especially about identifying talent and what to look for. And you see players like James Tedesco and all that give the rugby league coach a really big, he's had a big effect on their careers. So he knows what he's talking about, even if I don't like it sometimes. But as I said, unless you're watching every game all the time and you know all the players, if those variables aren't taken into account in what you're talking about, you're never, ever going to be 100% in what you say, because the full context isn't there. You've got to have the full package. But you can look at sections and sit there and go, what I'm seeing here is this, and that's what we're bringing to you with the rugby league coach. I've seen this before in their game, and I'm seeing this now in their game. Logic would say that that's a trend. It's a worrying trend. But it is a worrying trend. But we've got the best defense. Okay, so maybe it's not a trend. Stuff to consider. I do have to go. Thank you all. Up the fucking dogs. Here we go. We make the grand final. We lift the trophy with Mick at Canterbury Leagues Club. Oh, I might not be in the grand final, but I'll be fucking there at Canterbury Leagues Club. We'll get the super chat going to raise money for it. How's that sound? See you guys on. Thanks for coming. Love you all. Go the dogs. And thanks again, Jamie. Much appreciated. Feel a bit embarrassed. Go the dogs.